So now that we reviewed solving by completing the square, what we're going to do is we're going to be able to write equations of circles in standard form using our method of completing the square. The best way to get into this is just start with an example. So if I look at this first example, I've got x squared plus minus 4x plus y squared minus 6y equals negative 9. If you notice, this looks a lot different than when we were solving by completing the square, because on the left-hand side, I've actually got two variables. I've got an x and a y. But fortunately, my constant is already moved over to the right. I already have negative 9 on the right-hand side. So what we're going to do is basically use completing the square twice, once with x and once with y, but we can do them all on the same step. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our x values, x squared minus 4x, and we're going to have to add something over here. Then we're going to do the same thing with y. Y squared minus 6y plus something will equal our negative 9. And now, remember, whatever we do to the left, we also have to do to the right. So I'm going to have to add whatever I added to my x and whatever I added to my y. And to find those values, this is where our completing the square method comes into shape. What we need to do is we're going to look at that number in front of x and the number in front of y and use those to figure out what goes in our boxes. So let's first look at our x values. If I look here, I know there's a 4 in front of x. So just like when we were completing the square, we're going to take that number, divide it by 2, and square it. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So we're going to put 4s in each of the green boxes. And then we're going to do the same thing for y. Take that number in front of y, divide it by 2, and square it. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So we'll put 9 in each of those boxes. And we're basically done. Just like when we complete the square, now our last step is to rewrite this as something squared plus something else squared equals whatever the right-hand side is simplified to. So in this case, negative 9 plus 4 plus 9 is just 4. Now to figure out what goes in those parentheses, well, I've got an x and a y. I'm going to look at this sign here, minus, and then what number squared gives me 4? Well, it's right there, 2. Same thing here, look at this symbol, got another minus. What number squared gives me 9? Right there is 3. So we rewrote the equation of our circle in standard form using completing the square. Our equation is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. Now we're going to use that equation in order to be able to graph. So I wrote our answer over here for us, x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. And the first thing we need to do is find the center of this circle. So this one is convenient because these are both minus signs. If they are both minus signs, all we have to do is take this value and take this value. So my center is at 2, 3. So I'm going to draw a point at 2, 3, right 2 and up 3. That is the center of my circle. Then, in order to draw my circle, I need to know the radius of my circle. And in order to find the radius of my circle, you're going to take this constant number, 4, and you are going to find the square root. So I need to find the square root of 4, which in our case is 2. So if my radius is 2, I'm going to take that center and count right 2, go to the center and count up 2, go to the center and count left 2, and at the center go down to, and I have just found the radius of my circle. So I can sketch that circle because the distance from the center to each side should be 2. So that was our first example. Now let's look at another one that might not be written in exactly the same form, but we can use the same way. So my second equation is x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 4y minus 3 equals 0. So the first thing you should notice is that we don't have a constant all by itself. If I look, I've got minus 3 on that left-hand side. It doesn't have a variable, so it needs to move to the right. So let's start by moving that to the right by adding 3. So I've got x squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 4y equals 3. So now I've got my constant on the right-hand side, all my variables on the left-hand side. But if we look back at our first example, notice how my x's are together and my y's are together. So I want to group that the same way. So let's move my x's together. I want this x squared and this minus 6x next to each other. And I want my y squared plus 4y next to each other. Once I have that, then I can go through with my completing the square steps. So x squared minus 6x plus something plus y squared minus 4y plus something equals 3 plus whatever I put in green plus whatever I put in blue. So remember, in order to find those values that go in those boxes, I take the number in front of x and the number in front of y. So let's look here first. The number in front of x is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put 9 in my green boxes. I'm going to do the same thing for y. Take that number in front of y, 4, divided by 2. I get 2, and 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to be putting 4 in each of those boxes. Once I completed the square, I can write my final equation. So let's simplify that right-hand side. 3 plus 9 plus 4 gives me 16. Then let's figure out what goes in my parentheses. So if I remember, I've got an x and a y. Well, in front of this one, I've got a minus. And then what number squared gives me 9? 3. And then same thing here. Oops, I lost my symbol here. This is a plus, right? Because I had a plus up there. So same thing here. Y, I'm going to take this symbol, which is a plus, and then what number squared gives me 4? It's 2. So then again, we can use this equation in order to graph. So again, I rewrote my equations over on this slide so we can help graph. It was the x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 16. The first thing we want to find is the center of my circle. And if we look back, remember, we pointed out that these were both minus signs. But in my example, I've only got one minus sign. So I know the first value is going to be 3. But if I look at the second value, I have a plus. So I want that to be minus. I can rewrite a plus as minus negative, right? The opposite of a plus 2 would be minus negative 2, or just negative 2. So keep the first one as a 3, the opposite of 2, negative 2. So my center is at 3, negative 2. So I'll go right 3 and down 2 for my center. Then I need to find the radius. And to find the radius of my circle, I need to look at this value, 16, and take the square root of 16, which in our case is 4. So we're going to start at the center and count right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to count up 4. You're going to count left 4. And you're going to count down 4. And then there is the sketch of my circle. So we've just done 2 writing equations of circles in standard form problems. If you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher. And good luck with this week's lesson. Hope everyone has a wonderful day.